Check, check.
never standing by you, being by your side. Dear sister, please don't blame me. I only did what I thought was truly right. It's a long and lonely road when you know you walk alone. If I could hold back the rain, would you numb the pain? 'Cause I remember everything. If I could help you
Dangerous Grounds Network, the #1 radio network in the world. Check us out at www.dangerousgrounds.network. Come join us and let's get dangerous. And if you don't have a freedom boner right now, take a hike.
You're out here acting so tough, and now I'm calling you bluff. Black hoods and no faces. We'll take it out to the streets. That's where we can meet. You bring your sticks, I'll bring gauges. Just don't know what you've been asking for. This means war. Lock 'em up, knock 'em down. This means war. Beware of the storm. This means war. I see you stomping my flag. Next time I'm stomping your ass. Game is over, we won't take it no more. You get away with too much. It's time and we've had enough. Busting doors and we're keeping the score. Just don't know what you've been asking for. This means war. Line 'em up, knock 'em down. This means war. Beware of the storm. This means war. This means war. Line 'em up, knock 'em down. This means war. Beware of the storm. This means war. Line 'em up, knock 'em down. This means war. Beware of the storm. This is war.
It's time to strap our boots on. This is a perfect day to die. Wipe the blood out of our eyes. In this life there's no surrender, and there's nothing left for us to do. Find the strength to see this through. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers, we are soldiers. Whoa. to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. You can erase us, but just have to face us. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We stand shoulder to shoulder. You can erase us, but just have to face us. We are the ones who will never be broken. With our final breath, we'll fight to the death. We are soldiers. We are soldiers. We are the ones who will never go unspoken. No, we will not sleep. We are not cheap. We are soldiers. We are soldiers.
Folks, you are listening to Patriot Heart Radio on Dangerous Grounds Network. Now you can find us at www.dangerousgrounds.network. So that'll link you to all of our shows. Folks, I'm your host, Doc Collins. I am the Army veteran that is the now writer of romance and a few other genres ahead. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in each week. This is episode 7 of Patriot Heart Radio. I want to show some big love to Vincent Vargas at Vinny Rock on Instagram for his upcoming role in the FX show Mayans MC. He's got a fantastic podcast on the rise at Vinny Rock Podcast. Check him out on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and just show him some love. He's a very hard worker, and he's been at this for a long time, a lot longer than people realize. Also, I want to put on my bro, Doc Todd. He played Hip Hop Fest in Atlanta this last weekend with some mega stars, Nas headlining the show. Go online into iTunes and download Combat Medicine on iTunes now, tonight. He is a phenomenal veteran brother that is bringing truth, much like I try to translate to you all each week in every chapter of the upcoming novel, 1300 Hours. I want to thank Mission Volant for partnering with Crucible TV for the Woodrow Wilson Half Marathon coming up 12 November in Arlington, Virginia. That's a half marathon and 6K. You can register for that race at www.crucibleracing.com. Again, that's Mission Volant, a veteran nonprofit that you need to know more about. So, folks, this week we are going to talk about Chapter 7. We're going to read Chapter 7. We're going to touch on a few high points from last week's Chapter 6. Patriot Heart Radio is a behind-the-scenes look on each chapter being unfolded, unpackaged, if you will, from 1300 Hours. That's the upcoming novel that will be on bookshelves and e-reader platforms any week now. It's a hybrid published project with Author House and Patriot Heart Media. So last week, Chapter 6, we joined Ava and Dalton at the Chili Social in Ava's neighborhood. Captain Stenberg was without a date for a promised event in her neighborhood, so she used it as an opportunity to bring Dalton along. And it exposed Ava's love for food by contributing a port wine cheese ball encrusted in shreds of almonds. So all my food porn lovers, foodies, I tell you what, I would love to get some of your feedback on my Facebook page. You can search Doc Collins, DOCCOLLINS, about some of your favorite foods, or just drop comments as you're reading the book or as you're consuming the videos of each chapter on the Facebook wall to tell me your favorite foods that are mentioned, or spins on your favorites that you may have brought from your childhood, because that's what this is really about. the foods that I remember from my childhood, or something that I enjoy that I'm incorporating into the story. So the love of food is also very easily coupled with wine. Dalton brings in a nice Brunello di Montalcino, which is a vineyard from near Florence, Italy. You can check it out on winelibrary.com to learn more about that and order yours. We see more insight into the self-image struggles of Ava as she's preparing. She shrugs off a lot throughout the story, but you can tell as she's getting ready that she's still very conscious of her present state. So in this chapter, we also had the return of Ava's gay neighbor, Patrick, one of the beloved characters that I'm sure will be a fan favorite as the books continue. And I thought it, again, a spin. I wanted to give the military perspective to the female protagonist as opposed to the male. I also gave the most off-color humor, not shared by the military, but rather a 50-something civilian neighbor. So Patrick definitely highlights this chapter. I loved reading that. I loved writing it. And also just the fact that I'm able to share it with you at all means the world to me. So the chapter ends with a dramatic near kiss. It sends Dalton home excited at the prospect of the progress in their relationship. There's a lot of back and forth throughout the chili social that I hope you all can feel, that you can visualize, and you can join them. Maybe put a bowl of chili yourself together as you read that chapter. And it left Ava a heap of tears on the other side of the door as that chapter closed because of her guilt. You'll see that's a pattern throughout the story. So folks, that's just a recap of chapter 6. We're going to read chapter 7 together here in just a few moments. I'd like you to enjoy Kanan Smith's hit single, 2 Lane Road. This is week 2 of a hit from Kanan Smith. So follow him on social at Kanan Smith. Please enjoy.
This is Sam from Madison Rising, and you're listening to Dangerous Grounds Network.
Branded Warriors Inc., the original tattoo therapy program in America. Big Country and his band of warriors will take care of all America's heroes, with one drop of ink at a time. Go to bwitattoos.org to fill out your application and send it to bwitattoos@yahoo.com. Then the power of the ink and BWI will heal your mind.
Black Rose Tattoo Shop. Veteran Rand and Branded Warriors preferred tattoo shop. BlackRoseTattoo.com. All your tattoo needs.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to Dangerous Grounds Network. Hey, you want a freedom boner or what? Listen now.
What's up? This is AJ from Madison Rising, and you're listening to Dangerous Grounds Network. And we're going to put a little bit of freedom all up in you.
I know you're fighting with your mama, and I know you're sick of that drama. Yeah, I can pick you up in a pickup truck, baby, if you wanna. I got some room in the front seat, some good tunes with the backbeat. Yeah, I know a place, girl, where the troubles of the world won't ever find you and me. So let's go out where the river runs deep and the sycamores grow. Nobody gotta know. If you wanna go crazy, baby, let's go. Too far down a 2-lane road. We'll meet some down south moonlight with that West Coast red wine. Yeah, we'll kick it on feeling good and they made it cross a butane line. So let's go out where the river runs deep and the sycamores grow. Nobody gotta know. If you wanna go crazy, baby, let's go. Too far down a two-lane road. Take it a little bit heavy and load it all up in my Chevy. Let it all go out the window, just say the word and I'm ready. I got an F on the gas gauge, we can take it with a cattle grace. Baby, I'm gonna put that smile back on your face. So let's go out where the river runs deep and the sycamores grow. Nobody gotta know. If you wanna go crazy, baby, let's go. Too far down a two-lane road. Ooh, too far down a two-lane road. Ooh, take it too far with me, baby.
Yeah, that's Kanan Smith, Two-Lane Road. Check them out on iTunes now. We're going to jump right into Chapter 7 of 1300 Hours, upcoming novel by myself, Doc Collins. Weeks had passed since the chilly social, and scheduling had burdened Captain Stenberg with travel across the country for training, causing minor lapses in her sessions at the physical therapy clinic. The two increasingly kept in touch via text message and short phone conversations, even leaving voicemails for one another. The game of pretending the attraction wasn't as thick as it was had just gone stale. Both found themselves reverting to a state of adolescent bumbling when interacting one with the other. Their smiles became undisguisable. Each began accepting the irreversible state of attraction. Little by little, their behaviors changed to take even better care of themselves. Ava became less harsh in her self-talk and even invested in a few nice pair of undergarments from a retailer she'd come across in Europe. The process of daring to feel as sexy as Dalton's attention had begun to make her feel was becoming evident in the strangest ways to her. Mike and Kat received anniversary flowers and 2 visits from Dalton over the course of that month, leading up to Thanksgiving that next week. The crisp autumn air did have a way of energizing him, and he took it upon himself to dedicate more time to his personal fitness, finding a renewed peace as he took in the colors of the Richmond foliage. Making his way across the suspended bridge toward Belle Isle, he took note of all the people, their dogs out. He kept jogging down the length of the bridge, dodging bicycle riders and doggy doodles along the way. Dalton made his way to one of the enormous boulders among the churning rapids on the island. The sentiment of sharing the spot with Ava and Xena made his heart happy for several moments. A distant memory of Allie entered his mind, then passed just as quickly as it had entered. Upon realizing what had just happened, he took a knee right where he was. His stomach retched, as if he'd been sidekicked straight in his belly. A deep, heavy sob made its way out of his entire being. Giant tears fell from his eyes onto the cold stone beneath him. Quick glance over his shoulder to see if he had an audience revealed nobody was around. The deeper revelation of his solitude led to several more heavy sobs, as if it were outside the funeral home the last time he'd seen Allison's body before they put her in the ground. Frustrated with himself, he cursed through clenched teeth, his bottom lip still quivering uncontrollably. He stood upright, collecting himself, beginning to feel the cold of the tears on his cheeks. His focus spotted a small, smooth stone at his feet, which he snatched up and threw into the foamy river. He hung his head, drew a long breath of the frigid air, and let out a few last whimpers before wiping his face with the inside of his tech fleece sleeve. The sun had begun setting behind the old tobacco buildings from where he was situated, dragging the temperature down with it. Breaking into a jog back once he'd made a slow drudge from the rocks to the pathway, he began the next progression of healing, running toward his future. The time on his Rockwell told him it was an acceptable hour to grab a drink down at Shaco's Slip. He mashed the center button on his iPhone, bringing the screen to life. He missed a call from a number he didn't recognize out of Utah, plus a call, 2 texts from Ava, and 1 from Kanan Smith. He opened Ava's first, to read that she hadn't had time to pee since 15:30, which roughly he determined was several hours earlier. The second wished him a beautiful evening and invited him to call if he so desired. A smile climbed across his face that energized his entire being. Kanan's message read that he was back in Williamsburg for the long weekend, but had to be back on the road before Wednesday night. Dalton replied to Ava, wishing her the very same, and that he'd gladly call her when he got on the road. His text back to Kanan said he'd get cleaned up and head down there for the bonfire in just a couple hours. The trek back to his truck took next to no time compared to his more leisurely trip out to the island. When he got back to his truck, he reached in for a fresh long-sleeve shirt with a worn-out Quicksilver logo on the chest and a beanie to trap the heat escaping through his head and warm his ears. Peeling off his compression shirt and fleece as one, he felt how numb his chest had gotten from the wind on the sweat trapped beneath the layers. He casually tossed the ball of clothing into the passenger seat next to him and placed the call to Ava. He mouthed a few practice ways he might answer the call when she picked up, eventually scrapping them all when the rings turned to her voicemail. Her voice made him smile every time. He'd even memorized the words and rhythm of their delivery, inviting a brief message and telephone number to reach you back at. Ciao. Dalton slightly stammered into a completely unrehearsed, "Hey there, it's me, Dalton. But you know that by the caller ID, so I got your messages earlier. I hope you took care of that urgent business before it was too late. And I'm going to head on to Williamsburg to catch up with some good people." He spoke with his hands as he drove, his iPhone connected to the Bluetooth in his Raptor. "Really need to grab a shower and head down there. Kanan and a few of the guys are going to have their guitars," and he trailed off, realizing he had rambled through most of the message with no option of recovering it. "So you're great. Tell Zena I said hello and tell her not to get into any trouble. Talk to you soon? Great. Ciao." He ended the call and then said aloud to himself, "Don't get into any trouble? Ciao?" He couldn't believe how ridiculous he sounded to himself, let alone how much of a buffoon she must have thought him to be when she listened to it. Johnny Cash was crooning over the sound system in the condo as Dalton showered, much too loudly for him to hear his phone notify him of incoming texts from Ava. "You're too cute. Have fun tonight. You can try calling again if you like." The message was followed by 2 smiley face emojis. He was toweling off his hair when he looked down to see his phone light up, indicating a missed call from Ava. Stored in his phone as Ava, with an American flag icon on either side of her name. Immediately, he mashed the return call and speaker buttons as he continued to dab his body with a wadded-up towel. "Hello?" she said, sounding so cute. He switched off the fan that was useless to clear the fog-covered mirror. "Hello," he copied back. Ava's voice shifted to sound forced, sultry like, "What are you wearing?" She giggled to herself, her cheeks filled with blood, and she threw her hand over her mouth to prevent a shriek when he replied, "Nothing, now that you ask." He glanced up at his foggy silhouette in the vanity mirror, quite pleased with himself. "I was just in the shower when you called. I couldn't hear you on account of that, and the man comes around." Confused, Ava asked, "Wait, there's a man that comes around unannounced? Is he there now? Like a cleaning guy?" "No, nobody's here. It's a Johnny Cash song." Look, never mind. I'm glad you called. I know you're flying to Wisconsin, right? And that you leave Thursday morning, yes?" Her mouth and eyes smiled as she listened to him speak. "Yes, I leave early that morning to Wisconsin, yes." My girlfriend is coming to pick up Xena on Wednesday afternoon, evening time. Great. Would you like to eat some lunch Wednesday with me? You mentioned maybe working a half day, whatever that means for you. I just thought, I don't know, like maybe we could have a little vegetarian type Thanksgiving of our own. Nothing traditional, but something simple. It's just ours. Uncharacteristically, Ava was bursting with energy at the very thought. Yes, but can we maybe do it here so I'm able to be home when Kristen gets here for Xena? Her logic was sound, which allowed him to keep his question regarding why she'd never been up to his condo. He felt safe there at her place, at peace. Despite Xena still intimidating him still, he knew she was an Army police dog. He remembered seeing episodes of Cops where dogs that looked like her tore grown men to shreds in moments. Perhaps she contributed to that safe feeling. Sure, what time should I swing by? Her mind raced as she considered the most probable timeline of the day. The schedule said that she was finished at noon, but she knew she wouldn't realistically be out of the hospital until closer to 1400. A split-second calculation later, she replied, "How's 3 o'clock sound?" Like I know exactly when that is. Perfect. I'll have everything with me. I'm sure your fridge will be emptied. You're going to cook for me? Well, us, but yeah, that was my plan. I'm not terrible. I've had good coaching. She practiced what Huma had told her and formed the words, "Thank you." Classic. I'll text you when I get to Kanan's place. Talk soon. Ever so softly, through a half-bitten bottom lip, she all but whispered the words, "Okay, bye." Her own sense of enchantment bewildered her more with each encounter. Dalton waited for the call connection to end before clapping his hand loudly twice. He twirled on one foot in place and hit a couple of awkward muscle poses, throwing on a few layers, a knit beanie cap, and grabbing his coat to toss in the passenger seat of his canary yellow 4C coupe. Traffic felt like it should be light enough at this hour, and the police focused more on the peak windows for interstate travel. A couple of bottles of rosé that he knew the guys would get a kick out of were tucked into his bag. Tyrone Wells set the acoustic tempo for the drive down to the north end of Williamsburg. His father, who'd retired the year before, lived about 15 minutes south of where he'd be. Living on his own schedule, he'd taken an entire week off into the Appalachian Mountains, probably with no cell phone signal anyway. His parents divorced some 9 months before Allie got sick. He was thankful for how everyone played nice during all that. It wasn't an ugly divorce. They simply outgrew one another. Dalton was always thankful to have both parents together growing up and watched carefully the dynamics of single-parent homes and blended families and was thankful for a more nuclear experience. By the time Dalton arrived, the evening was well underway. The smoky smell of the bonfire and glowing embers floating skyward could be seen from down the drive where he had to park. He grabbed his bag of foreign sundries and made his way up the cobblestone driveway. Much like his parents, Kanan was as approachable and genuine as anyone you could hope to meet, and his rising fame and wealth only amplified who he'd been all along. Kanan Smith was as close a facsimile of his father as nature would allow, the way he listened attentively, giving his audience the impression that the most interesting person in the room. Dalton found that trait most beneficial when it came time to meeting people in the sports and entertainment world. Being met at the door with one of those real best friend type of hugs from Kanan and slapping high fives with the group greeting him at the side gate, Dalton felt like he was part of the team again. In the 20-plus years he'd known the Smiths, he'd never used the front door. Always the garage or the back gate. Just now, because it was Kanan's house and his folks moved into the Brandywine condos, didn't mean any of that would change. The Smiths were hardworking people. Didn't want to downgrade the level of upkeep they were responsible for around the house. Dalton gave Kanan the idea to have him buy them a nice condo that was upgraded in town and offer to buy their family home. Kanan was floored when it worked, and rather than give him a price for the house, his dad simply signed everything over to him. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Kanan collaborated with his church to make it available to people in rough patches of life, mainly veterans in the area transitioning out of service. Dalton chatted with another high school buddy, Austin, who was on his way out to tuck in his daughters. He got married around the same time Dalton and Allie had. The difference was that Austin and Rachel had gotten traction, started a family, were doing great. It struck Dalton later that Austin may have even known Ava from being at the same hospital. He made the commute daily to keep his family grounded. He was one of the few trusted voices Dalton could consult when everything turned around for him. Kanan met them at the Center Island, where they'd spent countless hours chatting till all hours of the night. Hey, Kanan, I got something I want to rap with you about real quick. Austin collected his keys and cell phone and made his exit. You want me to grab my guitar? No, man. It's about this woman I've been spending some time with. Oh, man, that's so great. My man. Oh, man, I'm so glad to hear that. By this point, Dalton couldn't contain his excitement. It was all over him. It warmed Kanan's heart to see his dear friend so elated. Dalton continued to share as they made their way back out to the bonfire with the rest of the crew. He even tried retelling the joke he'd heard from the Chili Social. He explained how he felt this connection to her, even though he'd never even kissed her or actually been on a real date. I think she's experienced real loss, like me. She doesn't just talk about it. Do you talk about Allie with her? No way. How sick is that? Hey, let me tell you about my late wife. I threw away a promising career in pro baseball and battled what most people would call depression these last 2 years, putting my friends and family through. His emotions choked him from speaking another word. He swigged his craft beer from the glass growler he held to his chest, taking note that one of the bottles of rosé sat empty on the picnic table, and the other one was being drank straight from the bottle by a guy he didn't even recognize. You were depressed, bro. You were a real bummer. The crack of laughter from Kanan's well-timed sidebar was just the type of healing he'd been missing from his friend these last 9 months or so. You don't have the corner on pain and loss on lock, bro. You'll drive yourself crazy thinking that you're all alone in this. You've done so great for yourself. You got your own physical therapy practice. You're all set up there in Richmond. You got your tiny car. I mean, I think it's awesome that you're beginning to fill in the relationship gaps with good people like me, Anna. What was her name? Ava. Her name is Ava. It was impossible for him to say her name without smiling. Kanan knew that and was precisely why he did that. After a beat, Dalton realized what he did. Come on, you know her name. I know I did. I just wanted to see that stupid grin on your face when you said it again. Hey, man, I'll be praying for you about that. Dalton knew he was serious. He knew Kanan would be at his bedside, getting down on his knees with folded hands or however he did it. And he'd say prayers on his behalf. Kind of made him feel guilty that he wasn't willing to do something so simple for himself. Yet it gave him some peace to know someone was taking care of that for him. Kanan grabbed his guitar and played for a while, singing a few covers everybody knew, mixed with some of his newer original material. Boy, was he talented, Dalton thought. On the drive back, Dalton thought about what Kanan had told him. He said he was on track, inviting her to do something he loved doing, cooking, and about the praying thing. It was nearly 11:30, and he fired off a quick text. Are you awake? He glanced down to see the bubbles dancing in the messenger field, indicating that she was. Call? With that, he mashed the button on his steering wheel, immediately dialing her in. Her voice was sleepy and answered on the first ring. Dalton always found it cute how she would answer with the sound of genuine inquiry as to who was on the other end of the line. Hello? He resisted the urge to reply with the follow-on of lyrics to a handful of songs that led with the simple greeting. Hey, how was your evening? The two spoke at the same moment, asking the same question, nearly the same words. Dalton paused, smiling as he downshifted. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. I wanted to hear your voice more than anything. His words landed on her heart in a way that significantly elevated her self-esteem with every effort. More than your friend's excellent singing, even? Come on. Kanan may have had the recording contract, but your voice is the real music to my ears. His flattery was unlike anything she'd experienced in any of her previous relationships. It had mostly been one alpha ego after another that somehow suckered her into thinking she needed to help them save them from themselves. Her uncanny ability to attract broken people, like really broken people, was a double-edged sword. Some she could repair, while others were simply fundamentally broken or far too gone to salvage. Ava was constantly puzzled at the healing properties his words and care for her seemed to carry with them. She explained how she and Xena had half-watched Moulin Rouge while dozing in and out of writing another paper for her master's degree she was pursuing online. It tickled her that he knew what scenes she would reference as her favorites and thought how unreal it seemed, at least showing her the attention that she believed would be reserved for someone she saw as more pretty than herself. Ava stopped herself from what she thought would be rambling. Dalton found himself giving her more of his attention than he realized he had to give. He nearly drove straight past his exit, which would be par for the course since more of his thought life was focused on her every day that passed than his day-to-day tasks. The details of Wednesday's lunch preparation time were hammered out right down to her having the proper cookware. The two must have said goodbye a dozen times before each ever actually hung up. A pattern was forming where Dalton would just sit in whatever vehicle he was in, talking on the phone for long stretches of time in random parking lots, oblivious to the world still spinning around him. Ava realized she should stock up on chapstick at that rate, that she was biting her bottom lip. Folks, thank you so much for hanging in there with me for Chapter 7. It's exciting for me to be able to share every week, and I look forward to your feedback. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Condition One. Visit www.gocondition1.com. Use the code Patriot Fitness in all caps. They've launched a new flavor. Your holidays could have never been prepared for this. Pumpkin Pecan by Condition One rolls oats, real cane sugar, and whey protein for a creation to be thankful for. Mixing pumpkin puree with shreds of pecan and flax, then dressing it all with maple, cinnamon, and nutmeg, has this power-packed bar tasting anything but basic. Condition One. Folks, you can find me on Snapchat at PatriotHeartDoc, Instagram at PatriotHeartMedia, on Twitter at real.collins, and Facebook, search Doc Collins, DOCCOLLINS. It is truly my pleasure each week to share with you on Patriot Heart Radio, part of the Dangerous Grounds Network. Thank you, and have a great week.